Hello, welcome to the Grow Your Wealthy Mindset podcast, where it is all about helping amazing physicians just like you create a wealthy life free from burnout and with the financial security to practice medicine on your own terms. I'm your host, Dr. Elisa Chiang. Hello, and welcome back to the Grow Your Wealthy Mindset podcast. Today, I'm so excited. We have my friend and fellow money coach, Latifait Akintade, also known as the woman behind MoneyFitMD. She also has a new book coming out very soon. Latifat, why don't you tell us more about yourself?
Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to be on your podcast. It's fun. I don't remember when it was I had you on my podcast. And I don't know that you had a podcast then yet. So I feel like I'm visiting your home. So I'm excited to be on your porch, staring out the window and hanging out. So for those that I haven't met, I am Dr. Latifat. I'm a GI physician. I'm also the mama of three ladies that keep me alert. And like Elisa said earlier, I am the creator and founder of MoneyFitMD, which is a platform where we help women physicians grow their wealth so that they can live life the way they were born to. What else do you guys want to know?
Well, let's talk about your book that's coming out.
Yes, I am excited about this book. I'm excited about the book. I'm excited about what the book is going to do. And the reason why that's the case is, my journey to money started about 7 years ago. I knew zero about money. I didn't know what a 401k was. There were all these lingos about money that were seemingly very overwhelming for me. And it wasn't because I was stupid. I'm a freaking physician, which means that I believe all physicians and most humans are smart. So I had the basic skills that it takes to know money. However, what happened was that my life had been so busy with moving to the US about 20 something years ago without our parents, with figuring out how to become a doctor, with being, having family responsibilities even before I had kids. And so for me, it's really been about like trying to figure out the next step, the next step, the next step, so that I could live my dream and do what I wanted, which is to be a GI physician. So here I was now in fellowship, towards the end of fellowship, and realizing that I knew zero about money. And at that point, I decided that I was going to be a GI. Well, I knew I was going to be a GI physician, but I was going to be focusing on inflammatory bowel diseases like ulcerative colitis and Crohn's. And I thought, and I still think that in order to do that at the capacity that I wanted to, it was best done in an academic center or a large hospital system. So what that meant was that I knew I was going to be an employed physician. And if you look at the data, if you're an employed physician, you may be at higher chance of burning out than if you had your own practice. So for me, I knew that I was already going to be at higher risk for burning out. And, I'm really, really grateful that I had this moment of looking around and really seeing, like really truly seeing, like seeing with my inner eyes that a lot of physicians were burning out in medicine. So I knew that if I did not figure out my money stuff, I was on a one-way trip to being burnt out. And for me, as someone that had, moved here 20 something years ago, I didn't see my mom for about 5 years. And the reason why I say that is there were so many sacrifices that I had done, that people that loved me had done for me to be where I was. And for me, if that path and led to burnout, I would feel like this sacrifice was in vain. So learning about money was something that I had to figure out because I knew that one, I did not want to burn out in medicine. I always wanted to have a choice in how I lived life. And I always wanted to have the ability to walk no matter what, because practicing medicine the way that I want to, taking care of my patients at the highest level of my moral compass or the way that I wanted to was important and tied with my degree of risk of burning out. So I had to learn money by going from scratch and learn like, where is my money going? What's a budget? I hate budgeting. How do I do this? I hate worksheets. I hate math and all those other things that I had been taught were things that I needed in order to be good at money. So I had to figure out the path for myself. And at first, I thought I was the only person that had that problem. But then it wasn't until I knew what my money was doing, I knew the lingos, I was building my net worth and living the life that I wanted, that I realized that I was not the only person that was struggling with this. So essentially, what I've done in that book now is it's everything that I have learned, the highest yield stuff that I believe is truly important. And, I call it like timeless wisdom. And the reason why I think timeless wisdom is important is when we think about money and times, there are going to be things coming in and out. There's going to be crypto today, whatever tomorrow. But How amazing would it be for us to learn the core principles, the timeless principles that can help us go from where we are to where we want to be? And so, what I've done is literally distilled that into this book that I wrote for me 6, 7 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago. So, when I share that I'm excited about this book, I'm excited because I get to write the book, but I'm also really excited about the work that it's going to do in the world and the women that it's going to help have more, be more, and be able to live their life on their own terms.
Oh, that's amazing. And yes, everyone's story is different. And I think people resonate with all different stories. Like my story is different from your story. And it's great for all the options to be kind of out there, right?
I
And
agree.
and for everyone to hear about everyone's stories.
I agree. I agree. Because it's so easy, right, to think that, and it's an interesting thing about us humans. It's a normal human phenomenon, right? It's sort of like especially when we're struggling with something, right? We think that we're the only people that are struggling with it. And it's always interesting too that as you are the audience, your audience is listening to this. Sometimes their brain is also trying to find ways that they're different, ways why this cannot work for them, ways why their problems suck bigger than everybody else. They're way too far gone. And part of the reason why I share the story of the fact that I knew nothing 7 years ago is if I can figure out what I know now without having like a framework, without having like a blueprint, like I just imagine how much faster it's going to take for women to be able to now do what they want to do because now there are people like you that are talking about the stuff. There are people that are giving them blueprints to do this because ultimately our lives are of value. And I'm not someone that, you wouldn't find me talking about financially independent, retire early, burn out till they die. Great. No, none of that stuff. But the key is like our lives are so urgent in terms of what we're meant to do in this world, who we're meant to be, the people we're meant to impact that when we can just figure out this money stuff like right now, earlier than later, it just means that we get to live life more on our terms for longer. And I think that's what it's all about.
Yeah, that's amazing. So how do you feel like your book is kind of different from like, let's say the White Coat Investor books or, all the other financial money books out there?
I mean, when I think about it, number one, I'm different, right? I'm different. I am 100% different from many people that I see in the money space. And honestly, that's one of the reasons why I chose to start talking about money because I looked around in the money world. There was nobody that sounded like me, that looked like me. There was nobody that just told me that, listen, you can do this. If I can do it, like it just did not exist. So the thing is, when I think about the books that you've mentioned, they're written by a different person for a different audience. They're not written for people like me. Doesn't mean that they're not helpful. They're 100% helpful. And I'm a huge firm believer that you can go into different spaces and learn different things. But I'll give you an example. So my book is coming out May 2nd, which I'm super duper excited about. It's called Done with Broke, a Woman Physician's Guide to More Money and Less Hustle. I don't know that there's a book that is called that out there. But also as part of what we've been doing about the book is I've had a very few people read the book. Very, very few people read the book. And some other people that I've read it is non-physicians. I gave it to two non-physicians to read because I have many non-physicians in my world that are like, Latifat, we love what you do. Your program is not for us because you only say you want to work with women physicians. But can we read this book? And I was like, well, I wrote it with women physicians in mind. So I actually had two people read the book. And the feedback those not two non-physicians gave me were crazy amazing. One of them said she had finished reading it and she was going to read it the second time with her husband. I'm doing my book recording in a couple of days from now. Actually, it's starting tomorrow. And the person that's going to be coaching me through doing the audio part of the book read the book. I didn't ask her to read the book. And she emailed me 2 days after she got my information. And she's like, I read your book with my husband. And we're halfway through the worksheets that you provided. And she was like, this book is amazing. I cannot wait to finish it. And I had some other people, and I'm actually looking at my phone right now because I want to read the actual review that I got from a woman physician about the book that I wrote. And part of this is, in all honesty, I wrote the book because there's a need for that. There's a need for my voice. There's a need for to give audience to people that are like me, but also because the way that I approach finances is different from the way that I'd seen it talked about out there. I believe that money is a tool for good. I believe it's an advocacy tool. I believe that we all have work to do in this world. And when people that have work to do in this world do not have the keys to wealth, we're literally sending them out with like 1 foot. We're not giving them the tools that they need. And in my opinion, that is wrong. So one of the people that I had read my book, which is a woman physician, said, Latifat would, wow, literally what she said. I'm reading it to you right now on my phone, so I'm not making this up. Your book is so powerful. I am on page 40, and this is the first time I felt seen and heard in the personal finance space. So when you ask me the question of why is my book different from those other books, those are the reason why. It's not because maybe I'm hallucinating, which I do sometimes, I think. I think I'm a touch cray. But when I hear people that have no reason to tell me stuff, it makes me realize that because it is hard work to write a book. Writing a book is boring. Writing a book is hard. And I am someone that I've always said that I'm bad at writing because I have literally PTSD from me in college, sitting down in the bathroom, crying over freaking English papers, right? So I have all that stuff. So I'm like, I don't think I'm like the most amazing writer. I actually thought I sucked. So one of the reasons why I chose to write the book myself, because there are many ways you can write a book, you can have people write it for you, is I chose to write it because I wanted to once and for all just prove to my brain that, see, we don't suck. So when I did that, I already got one of the wins that I wanted from the book. But now when I hear other people reflect things like what I just read back to me, I feel really glad that I chose to do the boring work of writing this book, because women physicians like that need to see themselves represented, spoken to, empowered in personal finance spaces. And that is something that never existed before. I hope that answered your question.
Oh, that's an amazing answer. So what was the process like with writing the book?
Oh, so the journey is going to be different for different people. And I try to be honest about my experience. And the bottom line is, I literally thought I was bad with writing. It's a story that I've told myself, just the same way some of the people listening to this may have a story that they're bad with money. They can never be good with money. They're physicians, not entrepreneurs. I'm great at money. I'm great at medicine, but not anything else. Like, we all have the stories we tell ourselves. And for me, one of the stories that I was telling myself in the more recent past was that I am not a good writer, even though people tell me all the time that they love my emails, they love the stuff I post on social media, but still I did not listen to what they were saying because I just had my own story in my head, right? And so for me, I actually signed up with a publishing company, it's like a hybrid of a self-publishing company, but I went to their physical workshop because I'm like, I need all the help I can get if I want to solve this problem for myself, just like I did with money. So I went to the workshop, was amazing, was inspiring. I got the tools that I needed to get started. And part of their process is to walk you through everything. So literally they have coaches that you can touch base with. They have calls that you can be a part of. I'm a physician and I was doing a lot of clinical hours then, so I wasn't really listening to a lot of their calls, but it was great to know that I had the accountability if I needed it. So that was really helpful. So the first part of getting the stuff from my head down on paper was not hard because I know what I wanted to tell people. I knew what I wanted to teach people because I do this all the time, right? So that part was not hard. It was once it was out of my head, now the editing process of making sure it was actually what I wanted my women, like the minimum, because women physicians are busy. I don't want to write like 500 pages of crap. I just wanted to distill it down to the most important, most useful stories, experiences, and also the knowledge, the tools, the worksheet. So that condensing it down was what took discipline, because I was like, I don't like writing. Writing is boring. So I had to literally get through my own mindset. But the company that I used was really helpful, and they continue to be helpful. So I've used their editors I think it was after my second phase of editing myself was when I now started using their their editors to help do some editing work. English is my second language. I hate punctuations forever, like full stop, comma, semicolons. I respect full stops, commas. I don't as much. So those were things that I needed help with. And I was really And I think this is really important because I was really glad I wrote the book. I'm really glad I did. I'm glad that I did, and I'm glad that I'm going to be marketing it. But I also think that it was important that I went through a lot of this process myself, as well as leverage and use help. And the reason why that's important too is we're here talking about money, and there are times when people say things like, maybe I can just delegate this to anybody else, right? And and other times people are like, maybe I should just do it all by myself. And I think there's a space in between where the goal is for us to be empowered and for us to grow and then leverage resources. And those resources may be, maybe a financial advisor, maybe a CPA, maybe a coach, right? Maybe a therapist, maybe a psychiatrist, maybe it's community, right? And I think the beautiful spot, like the sweet spot, is a mixture in between where you don't give your power away, but you actually do what needs to be done in order for you to empower yourself, grow your own mindset yourself, right? And then now leverage all those resources so that you can be exponentially even more growth, whatever, more amazing. And, as I was sharing with you about my book experience, I realized how it parallels with a lot of like money growth and experience. So I figured I'd put those, match those two things together.
Yeah, it's so true, right? You got to think of yourself as the CEO of your household, and you take advice from lawyers and CPAs and all your advisors if you could choose to have a financial advisor, but you're still making the decisions.
Absolutely. And that's how it was with this book and the book processes. And because I got the skill set, the practical skill set, the mindset skill set, the emotional part of things, right? To be able to help me become a different person now, a year after I started writing. Like the person that started writing that book is different from the person speaking to you today. And the same happens with our finances, where we gift ourselves with the gift of the growth that is required to go from where we are to where we want to be. And then we can now leverage other people like the editors that I used in order to be able to do an even more minute finesse, even more amazing work and get even more amazing result than I would have by myself.
Yeah, and that's the other point, right? If you're not strong at something, find people to help you get strong at it or even delegate certain things out.
Absolutely. I wish I could delegate my working out. Let me know if you have any genius ideas, listeners, of how I can have someone like go take my arms and work it out. But the bottom line is I can use a personal trainer, but they help me get stronger. They tell me and teach me, coach me on how to not injure my muscles, how to optimize my work so that the input, like the stuff that I'm creating, has even bigger changes in my health and my body. So it's something that we do every day in other parts of our lives. And I think that we need to unsubscribe from the mindset of this complete DIY to an extreme that is not healthy, that wastes the life that we have, the breath that we have, where we can be more intentional about getting the skills we need and able to expedite the process. It's wisdom, really.
Right. Yeah. And you say you changed so much over the last year while writing this book. Well, a lot of changes have happened in your life, right? You've started a sabbatical.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know what to say, but I'm just poof. I'm poof. And that's a key, right? My goal in life is I have this, I've always had this thought that my job right now is to live my life for myself and not in a selfish way, but in a full way, right? Living my life, the impact I'm meant to create in this world, the people I'm meant to give, the joy I'm meant to have, the experiences for me, but also for my future self. Like my 80-year-old self is going to look at me in the past and ask how I spend the life and the youth and the vigor and the experiencing of my kids at this age, at the helping the people that we're meant to help, right? So when I think about it, I think about how I'm accountable for my 80-year-old self, but I also think about how I'm meant to live multiple lifetimes in one. I call it, and I think I need to do an episode on this. It's the way that it's a mindset shift that has happened over the last, I don't know, month or whatever for me. But I believe that we're meant to live more than one lifetime in one. And that is not in a way that grinds because I don't do that. It's literally why I write a book about without hustle, right? My book has that subtitle on there. But the way that I think about it is I'm a GI doc. I love what I do. It's a privilege to do what I do. I love my patients. I love my colleagues. I tell people that I lucked out. This was my first work job outside of fellowship. And I I'm in awe of the fact that I get to do what I got to do. But then I'm just wanted a sabbatical. And people are like, why do you want a sabbatical? Because I just want a sabbatical. I just want to listen. I want to just like have the space to just listen more to my mind, to my spirit, to God, and just decide what the recipe of this next season of my life is meant to look at. And for me to be able to leave the work that I love without hating it, to be able to leave the patients that I love without hating it is feels like such a privilege that I'm grateful for. And so what I'm doing right now in this season, my family and I will taking a year off. We're taking a year off with the kids. We have three little ladies, ages 5 to 10, and we're gonna be traveling. I don't really say around the world because I think if I say around the world, that means I want to hit every single country in the world, which I'm not doing that yet. But we're gonna be traveling. We're actually already started. Right now, we are on the East Coast, but this is our only stop in the US. After this, we're traveling actually in about 3 days. We're going to be leaving for Curacao. We'll be doing Curacao, Aruba. So the Dutch islands, we'll do Europe, we'll do Africa, we'll do Southeast Asia. And we're going to slow travel for the next year. And I'm really excited about it, which means I get to hang out with people like Elisa on her platform. I get to hang out with humans. I get to hang out with my kids. We're homeschooling. I get to do what I'm doing this season, which is continue MoneyFitMD and do my work of helping physicians be liberated so that we can live life well now and in future. That's the goal. That's my mission. So right now I'm recording this in a room which is where visiting my friend from residency who is it's just been amazing to be able to see her, spend time with her kids. I woke up early this morning. They have a beautiful backyard looking at a reservation, and I just sat down, drank coffee, prayed, and it's such a privilege. I'm grateful for this breath that I have, and my goal is to live this life as best that I can in purpose, without grinding to death, but also optimizing it and making sure that I fulfill my goal, which is to live 5 lifetimes in one.
Well, it definitely sounds like you are traveling the world. Are you spending the whole year essentially traveling?
So to be determined, mostly. However, so right now we're recording this in April. There's a conference that my husband and I are attending at the end of January in Texas. That's the only bookmark we have in the US. So if we decide that, and I'm excited, it's going to be a great conference. John Maxwell is going to be like one of the keynote speakers, and we signed up for VIP, so we get to meet him. So that's what we're going to be doing end of January. If we decide to not attend that, then we literally can go for as long as we want to. But that's the only reason why I'm like 10 months of traveling because of that. But literally, where if we removed that decision because we're inspired or we feel led to, then we would be traveling for longer. But right now, it's going to be 10 months of international travel unless we decide to make it even longer.
Wow. And how far advance are you planning the travel?
We are letting this be a little bit, we have some guidelines. We know where we're going to be continent wise. We're almost making like trimesters. We're doing like it, 2 to 3 months, 2 to 3 months, 2 to 3 months. So we know where we're going to be. So that part of it is structured, but we also want to let some flexibility because that's something that we haven't given ourselves the gifts of in the past. So right now we know we're going to be in Europe. We know the countries we want to visit in Europe. And literally, our friends that we're here with, they're from Turkey and they go to Turkey every summer. And we said, we're not going to decide exactly where we're going to be until we see them so that we can decide if we want to do Turkey or not. So that's the kind of flexibility that we're allowing in the plan. So little bit of it's the same way as how we do life and money. Like you allow some structure and flexibility in the middle of it. And that's what we're doing with the travel as well.
Yeah, so you brought up the planning for money. How did you plan for financially for this trip?
It's interesting. I've been getting that question quite a bit, and I always tell people that it's nothing different from what I've been preaching this entire time, which is money in a way that liberates our life, right? And as part of the book launch, I don't know if I've told you this, I'm going to be doing an event as part of the book launch. It's like a 5-day life that I'm doing, and I'm going to be sharing some other stuff on there. But it's the same thing that I tell people that we need to live life well as physicians, whether you want a sabbatical or not. Because the whole idea about a sabbatical is not even something that was on like my dream plan. This time last year, a sabbatical was not a thought that I even had, right? And to be able to plan that I think it was late summer or early fall, was last year was when we decided that we wanted to take a sabbatical, right? And to be able to do that is because of the gifts that we've given ourselves ahead of time when we did not even know we're going to take a sabbatical. And so the way that I would plan for financials, the same way that we plan for, the same way I tell people to plan about their life, which is know where your money is going, okay? Plan for emergency, invest in diverse sources of income. Make sure you don't put all of your eggs in one basket, which would be your clinical income. Don't put all your eggs in your clinical income. When you're earning that clinical income, think about it as a seed that you're planting into different spots that can eventually grow into trees. So that when the growth in the trees happens, you now not only have like one fruit, but now you have like a bunch of trees you can eat from. And so sort of like that's the most simplified way that I can think about it. It's nothing different from what I've been preaching the entire time. Now I just get to live it even more of the fact that live life in a way that's liberated, plan your money in a way that gives you freedom so that you're not stuck to thinking that your source of income has to be only one thing. And that's literally what we're doing right now.
That's amazing. Wow. So many great pearls and everything that you've shared. So how can our listeners find you if they want to know more about you?
Well, they can listen to your podcast and listen to this over and over again. They can make sure to leave your review. So if you guys like this episode, if you've liked everything that Elisa has been talking about, please leave her a review on our platform. This is how you can get more people to listen to her, because this stuff is important. What we do is important. And it's great that you're learning, but what's even more amazing than you learning is helping other people learning. And the way you can do that without even like paying anything is literally leaving her a review on her platform. So if you haven't done that yet and you've listened to more than one episode, please leave her a review. And if you want to find me, you can find me on the MoneyFitMD podcast, where I talk about all things money and mindset. If you're listening to this episode after May 2nd, then do yourself and your loved ones a favor by getting a copy of my book. It's called Down with Broke, A Woman Physician's Guide to More Money and Less Hustle. And if you go on my website, which is MoneyFitMD.com, you can learn how you can find more about what I do with the women in my community. You can learn about how to be a part of some of the free stuff that I also share with the world. But the bottom line is we're here to serve. We're here to enrich humans. We're here to help all humans, whether you're a physician or not. Live your life, because this life is of so much value. And if there's any way I can help you do that more or grow that even more, then it would be my honor to serve you in that capacity.
Oh, thanks so much. And thanks so much for asking people to leave a review for the podcast. That really means a lot.
Yes.
And I love how you're always so generous, sharing and helping everyone.
No, it's what it's all about, right? Right? It's great to receive, but giving is just so much fun. And there's people that I cannot help because they just don't get me, right? And the only person that can help them is you. And for me to prevent them from getting that kind of access is not caring about them, is not caring about who they're meant to serve in this world. And if our job is to help ourselves and others, then the least we can do is do our part. So of course, I'm going to tell them to leave a review and share with all the humans in their life. Of course.
Well, thank you so much for being a guest on my podcast today.
Thanks for having me. And thank you for all you do. I'm glad you started the podcast, and congratulations to you too.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I did start the podcast after being a guest on your podcast. I was guesting on a lot of other podcasts and felt like, well, I should have my own podcast.
Yes, time to build my own home, right? So thanks for inviting me to be a guest on your porch. It's been fun.
And thank you so much for having me on your porch in the past.
Absolutely.
And thanks to all our listeners for listening to the Grow Your Wealthy Mindset podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you could share it with your friends and colleagues. And now for the disclaimer. I am not a certified financial planner, accountant, or attorney, and nothing I say should be construed as professional investment, tax, or legal advice. This show is primarily for your education and entertainment. I am a physician, but I'm probably not your physician. So if you need any medical advice, please contact your own physician. Thank you.